Hi, everyone, and welcome to Out Now Live. I'm Wembley Sewell, the executive editor of Them. At Them, we're dedicated to supporting, uplifting, and amplifying the LGBTQ community, our history, our stories, and above all, our voices. Today, I'll be your host as we honor the legacy of Pride and celebrate how far we've come. This year, it's so important to remember that Pride was born out of protest, and it's inherently linked to the essential activism of the civil rights movement. In the face of global Black Lives Matter and anti-racism protests today, we cannot observe Pride without acknowledging the contributions of Black trans women and queer people of color who have paved the way for all of us. As we demand a more equal, more accepting world for everyone, our solidarity is more important than ever. And though the coronavirus pandemic has rendered us unable to gather in person for Pride for the first time in 50 years, I hope that this moment is one of connection for us all. Tonight, you will hear stories about defining moments in LGBTQ history. You'll learn about people who have shaped our community and defined our pursuit of freedom. Freedom to love, to express, to explore, the freedom to gather, the freedom to just be. You'll hear from some of the most incredible figures in our community and from amazing allies who have long stood beside us in the fight for equality and justice. I hope all of this inspires you as much as it inspires me. I hope you feel our joy, our strength, our resilience, and our power because this is also a celebration of progress. I want to shout out that this program is a fundraiser for the Allie Fournier Center too. Based in New York City, Allie Fournier Center's mission is to protect LGBTQ youths from the harms of homelessness and empower them with the tools needed to live independently. If you're able, we encourage you to donate anything you can. But before getting started, I also want to thank Ralph Lauren, our presenting sponsor, for making this moment possible, and for decades and decades and decades of support for the LGBTQ community. This year, Ralph Lauren is proud to continue their partnership with the Stonewall Community Foundation, a grant-giving organization making values-driven investments in organizations, projects, and leaders. As a cornerstone of their identity and values, the Stonewall Community Foundation has prioritized and lifted up those who experience the greatest vulnerability within the queer community. And beyond that, Ralph Lauren has created a beautiful gender-neutral capsule for everyone, with proceeds going directly to the Stonewall Community Foundation, which you can read all about in our description. Now, without further ado, on behalf of them, I am so proud to present you Out Now Live.
Hey y'all, it's me Shangela. Now listen, we all know that this Pride season is unlike any other that a lot of us have ever experienced. But just because a lot of times in a lot of places we're on lockdown, that does not mean that our spirit of pride has to be locked up. And also remember that Pride was created out of protest. And in a time when so many of us are standing up to oppression, standing up against divisiveness, standing up against systematic racism, standing up against injustice, these are the things that Pride was built upon. So don't feel that we're in a space of hopelessness. Actually, we're in a space of hope. This year, this Pride celebration can still be one of the best yet. You just got to remember what it's about, baby. All right? And listen, it's me, Shangela. I'm coming to you to let you know that I'm still going to hold on to all the pride that I have for this community every day. I'm so proud to be part of the LGBTQIA+ community because it's about that word, community. We've got to find ways to, even though we're socially distant, we still got to find ways to bring us even closer together. And one of those ways is by remembering that we are all in this together. If one thing this global pandemic has taught us is that we are all in this together. So I believe in you. I am proud of you. I love you. And happy Pride.
I just wanted to come here and say really quickly how proud I am of all of us who continue to be resilient in the face of oppression. Black, trans, and queer folk, we have survived and we will continue to survive and we will continue to fight, and we will continue to resist all the things that try to make us feel less than who we are, and less than what we deserve, and less than what we are capable of. Pride seems to always begin with the riot against the police. The police have been the soldiers of oppression for generations and generations. And we have seen time and time again that every attempt a good cop, a good person has tried to make to go into the system to change it from within has failed. We can no longer depend on the police, and we have to invent, strategize, and create other ways and forms of justice that don't include violence or forces that are ambiguous in racism and ambiguous in transphobia and ambiguous in queerphobia. We need to be able to secure our safety and our liberation. And we can't do that without abolishing the police. Pride was a riot against the police. Black pride is a riot against the powers that be, trying to keep us down, be trying to make us feel less than, to make us feel undeserving of. I resist those. We resist those. And that's why we have pride.
If I were asked to condense the queer spirit of the 1970s down to one word, it would be liberation. Liberation is both the act of freeing the self and the state of being free. It is the crack in the frozen earth and the everlasting weed pushing up through it. In 1974, a group of Black feminists began meeting in Boston. They came together to be liberated in the presence of one another, and to liberate the world. Nothing less, they realized, would guarantee a future for Black queer women in America. They called themselves the Combahee River Collective. The name was derived from a daring action organized by one of the greatest liberators in American history, Harriet Tubman. During the Civil War, Tubman planned and executed a mission of Union gunboats raiding down the Combahee River in South Carolina, liberating over 700 enslaved people. She was the first and only woman to lead a military operation during the Civil War. For her years of fighting for the freedom of Black people, and thus the freedom of all Americans from the original sin of slavery, Tubman received $200 and no military pension. Not until 2003 did Congress finally approve the payment Tubman was owed. But the women of the Combahee River Collective understood the debt we owed to Tubman, and that the best way to repay that debt was to continue her unfinished work by liberating themselves, by liberating Black women, and by extension, by liberating all people. In their foundational document, the Combahee River Collective Statement, they wrote, "We see as our particular task the development of integrated analysis and practice based upon the fact that the major systems of oppression are interlocking. We believe that the most profound and potentially most radical politics come directly out of our own identity, as opposed to working to end somebody else's oppression. In the case of Black women, this is a particularly repugnant, dangerous, threatening, and therefore revolutionary concept because it is obvious from looking at all the political movements that have preceded us that anyone is more worthy of liberation than ourselves. We reject pedestals, queenhood, and walking 10 paces behind. To be recognized as human, levelly human, is enough." This Pride season, this is the spirit I want to invoke. The spirit of coming together in passionate groups dedicated to mutual aid. The spirit of planning for our collective future. The spirit of development and incubation. It's been a long winter. Never forget you have spring inside you.
You got it. What is pride to me? That hand on the side of the screen. Thanks, babe. Pride, oh pride, where art thou, pride? You reside in my arms when I hold my partner tight. You reside in my decisions while I navigate through a world so it feels just right. You make me smile when crazy decisions turn out in our favor, like coming out of the closet to your friend on TikTok. Those are my faves. My pride resides in my eyes when I see young humans allowed to live their truth, because that wasn't always my ride. See, y'all's ride might be similar to mine. I hid from my moms and pops and most of the world's prying eyes. So for me, baby, what a ride. Happy Pride, everybody. The world is hurting right now, and I think our community knows what hurt is. So go out there and be a friend to someone. Share your pride. Bye.
I've always considered myself an ally of the LGBTQ plus community until I met my girlfriend. And I'll tell you that being an ally to a community and being part of it are two very different things. It was a joyous, amazing moment when I met my now girlfriend, and it was wonderful to celebrate her and our relationship with my family and my community. But as a middle-aged white woman of privilege, there were very few repercussions for my announcement. In fact, people were excited and praiseful and very kind and complimentary. So I'm filled with pride. But my pride is not the pride of the revolutionaries who were marginalized and who were told they couldn't love the way they loved or whom they loved, and that who they were was shameful. My pride is not the pride of those at Stonewall or any man or woman who's had to fight to be who they are. My pride is a direct result of the way that was paved for me. So my pride is a result of others' hard work, and with that comes real responsibility to pay it forward. I stand on the shoulders of those who fought for my privilege and my pride, and I stand on the shoulders of those who have not had any encouragement or acceptance, those who have faced violence and rejection and pain. I stand on the shoulders of those who had to self-generate pride when all they were ever taught was shame. And what we're seeing right now amidst this global pandemic, I think with Black Lives Matter, gives me great hope that out of this time, there are huge things possible for all of us. I think the superpower of the marginalized is truly to find and never waver from the belief in who you are and to unapologetically stand in the light of that belief. I'm in awe of that kind of pride. So mine will always be intertwined with gratitude and humility. Happy Pride, everybody, everywhere.
What is pride? Pride is never having to say I'm sorry for who I am, or how I look, or how I sound. So, with all that in mind, I say to everybody, happy Pride Week. No matter how much color you got in your hair, no matter how many pounds you may have put on, no matter what you sound like because you haven't spoken to anybody real in weeks. Happy Pride Week. Happy Pride Week in celebration of all of those who are out there being themselves. Happy Pride, baby.
Hi everyone, I'm Cara Delevingne and I'm so excited to be celebrating Pride with them and all of you around the world. Pride is such a special moment to reflect on all the beautiful things that make you your truest self. Your identity, your individuality, your courage, your strength. No matter where you are on your path of self-discovery or self-love, never shy away from embracing all that you are. There are so many things that make you special and unique, and perfectly you. It can be scary to step into one's truth, but I promise the world is so much brighter when you do you. Be safe, be kind, take care of yourself, and above all, Love one another. Happy Pride.
Hi, my name is Carly Rae Jepsen, and I want to wish you all a happy Pride. To me, Pride is about celebrating love in all forms. And my fans, I have to say that you've taught me what it is to be truly accepted. You've made me more confident as a performer. Being a part of any Pride celebration is nothing but the most joyful experience I've ever had. So let's keep celebrating each other, lift each other up, and Pride is not just about this month, but always.
Pride as an event, as a coming together of people, is something that has terrified me for most of my out life, and even before I was out. It's something that made me really uncomfortable because I didn't feel like I should be part of a certain community. I was so used to keeping parts of my personality and my personal life just to myself and to very few people. But I think as I kind of get older, at one point it just got exhausting, and I realized that it just became a lot easier to try to be myself all the time, if that makes sense. And with Pride, it's this wonderful little spotlight where we kind of get to just embrace our differences and who we are. And it's also a reminder that I have a responsibility to show up, because there are so many people out there who aren't able to do that safely.
If you were queer and you lived through the 1980s, you survived a war that most people in America refused to recognize was happening. By the end of 1989, homophobia, transphobia, racism, misogyny, and government inaction had allowed AIDS to take at least 89,000 lives in America. And those are just the ones we know about. Let me be clear. AIDS is an ongoing crisis. There are more than 36 million people worldwide living with HIV, many of whom lack access to life-saving medications. Here in the United States, Black men who have sex with men, trans women, women of color, low-income people, sex workers, and many others are still getting sick and dying in disproportionate and unconscionable numbers. But in the 1980s, AIDS was a ghostly killer, unacknowledged, unaddressed, and seemingly unstoppable. One of the first priorities of activists was simply to make the crisis visible, to break through the silence that extended from family dinner tables all the way to the Oval Office. In 1988, 11 artists in New York came together to form an activist collective called Grand Fury. As experienced artists and designers, they knew how to grab attention and turn art into a force for making change. But Grand Fury didn't just fight AIDS. They struck at the root causes behind the crisis, like poverty, government inaction, and shame. In 1990, they created a series of signs made to look like official New York City street plaques, which read, "NYC owns 30,000 empty apartments and has 30,000 homeless people. NYC's cost-effective solution? Let them die in the streets." Eerie echoes of that action floated through the empty streets of New York City this year as anti-poverty activists battled the city to use empty hotel rooms and apartments to house the more than 60,000 people living on our streets and in our unsafe shelter system. Much like the work of Grand Fury, this pandemic has made visible the fault lines of privilege and powerlessness that undergird who lives and who dies in America. I don't know about you, but many days this year I have woken up feeling broken, unsure, lost. How do we fight a diffuse and murderous entity, spread like a toxic blanket across America? And once we're done with the Republican Party and the American police state, how do we fight COVID-19? I don't have an answer to that question, but the memory of Grand Fury reminds me that queer people have never hesitated to throw ourselves headlong into the impossible fight for our survival. 11 people came together and fought certain death. And they won. 11 people. That's you and 10 friends. Hold up your hands. Count your allies on your fingers. This is where change lives. Let's get to work.
Happy Pride! We are so happy to be able to celebrate Pride with all of you. It's so important that we take the time to acknowledge the progress that has been made to create a more equal, diverse and loving world, whilst we recognise and advocate for those who are still fighting for LGBTQ+ rights around the world.
We believe more than anything that you deserve the right to choose who you love, and to love yourself for who you are, no matter where you are in the world. We promise to continue to fight and push and persuade for more accepting and inclusive rights for LGBTQ+ people.
Through My AIDS Foundation, we commit to not leave anyone behind. We want a future where people of all races, ethnicity, nationality, sexual orientation, gender identity, disability or substance use history has an opportunity to live free from HIV, discrimination, injustice and mistreatment.
As you will remember, Pride began with Brenda Howard, a bisexual activist who was a trailblazer and hero named the Mother of Pride, who began the marches in the 70s. Pride marches have become places of solidarity, inclusion, and acceptance, and this spirit is needed now more than ever.
We see you, we love you, and we are here for you.
Happy Pride from home, everyone.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Guillermo Diaz. I wanted to wish everyone a happy Pride. I know it's kind of bittersweet, and it feels a bit odd to be celebrating anything at all. But I think it's a good time for us to think about continuing to stay focused and staying vocal, staying angry, and continuing to fight against all the injustices that are happening at home and around the world. I also think it's a really good time for us to think about all the amazing folks that came before us, you know, that fought so hard for us to have the rights that we have today, who sacrificed so much. People like Marsha P. Johnson and Larry Kramer, Sylvia Rivera, thank you, and so many others. I'm sending you guys so much love and light, luz y amor y todas las cosas buenas. All right, happy Pride, everybody.
Hi, everyone. It's Michael Kors. I'm so happy to be here with all of you and them to celebrate Pride. You know, it's interesting when I think back to my childhood and growing up, I know how incredibly fortunate I was to have a family who was unbelievably supportive in everything I wanted to do and in the person who I was. There was never any question that I had their support. Unfortunately, there were certainly people around me growing up who didn't feel the same way. Thank goodness we've had so many fabulous heroes over the years who have been there to help us all and to push the community forward. We unfortunately recently lost two of the most amazing heroes, the brilliant Larry Kramer, the activist, the writer, the man who brought so much attention and gave the world the idea that we really had to bond together and fight the AIDS pandemic. We also lost the unbelievably brilliant Terrence McNally. His plays and his screenplays brought our life to the stage and to the screen. And you know, I think familiarity is such a helpful thing for all of us. So we have to applaud them both. Right now, things are very, very difficult, and we're in that downturn. When we're in a downturn, we have to remember there are hills and valleys in life. This valley, well, we'll go back to a hill. We had a hill not that long ago. I remember sitting with my husband on our sofa in New York City the night that it came on the news that in New York State, marriage equality was law. We immediately looked at each other and said, "You want to get married?" We rushed out the door. We ran over to Sheridan Square to celebrate. There we were, standing in front of the Stonewall Inn, and we knew this was a momentous occasion. So I have to tell all of you, remember, even if it's dark on certain days, remember the light will come. No matter how far we've come, there's still a big, big distance to go. We all want to be able to walk down the street, arm in arm, showing affection for whoever we want, wherever we are. That's what it's all about. So happy Pride to all of you. Love you guys. Love them.
Hi everybody, I'm Cynthia Nixon. Happy Pride. Last year we celebrated the 50th anniversary of Stonewall and we partied for a month. We did it right. We must have seen this coming somehow and known that our celebrations last year would have to last us for a while. I've been thinking so much about Stonewall and about Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera and how they started this movement and they taught us to stand up and fight back. And I've been thinking about Larry Kramer, who we lost last month. And in a different decade, he also taught us how to stand up. They taught us how to stand up when we were being unjustly beaten by the police. And Larry taught us how to stand up, facing a terrifying epidemic with which the government is not helping. So, as a community, we have been here before, and we have gotten through it by standing together and by fighting. So, on this Pride Week, I want to say to everybody, please be safe. Please take care of yourselves and your loved ones. But please remember who we are and where we came from. And know that the LGBTQ plus community is always best when we are together and we are fighting.
On this 50th year of Pride, it is worth noting that the world has lost one of the most powerful people in the community, whose voice and impact and love and care broke the world open and exposed an underbelly of homophobia that had been too long in this country and in the world. Larry Kramer will be sorely missed. On this 50th anniversary, it is also worth noting that this community is a demonstration of pride. Pride in oneself, pride in one's community, pride in one's courage, pride in one's authenticity, and pride in one's truth. This community is also the demonstration of strength in the face of illness, adversity, bigotry, prejudice, cruelty, and divisiveness. Empathetic and resilient, you show us all how to live, relate, and be from our true selves. May 50 years of Pride fill you with great pride, as you are an inspiration to the world.
Happy Pride. Pride is year-round. This month is so the world can honor us.
Hey, it's Adam Lambert, and I just wanted to point out that the LGBTQ plus community has been putting up with crazy obstacles for hundreds of years. We know what resilience looks like, and COVID-19, although a very scary enemy, is something that I know that if we band together and create the unity that we can within our community, this is something that we will move beyond. So I know that this Pride Month is a bit bittersweet, it's a bit strange this time, but I'm looking forward to the time when we can all get back together without masks, without social distancing, and dance and celebrate again. Happy Pride.
Hey Altonau Festival, this is me, Pablo Vittar, and I'm so glad to be here saying to you guys, be proud of who you are, and no matter what I say, I'm here for you. Kisses.
Hello everyone, happy Pride from Victor and Reiner. Have a wonderful time. Have a great day and stay safe.
I want to wish everyone a happy Pride Month. I think we'll be thinking about how Pride came to be now more than ever. And I think it's important to remember, and I think as long as we keep being seen and keep being heard, we can't be stopped. So to the whole queer community, I see you and I love you and I'm thinking about you, and that's it. Lots of love.
Hey everyone, it's Jazz Jennings, and I just wanted to wish you a happy Pride Month. This year, Pride is so important because it's about celebrating the love of the community. Pride is about loving who you are unconditionally and just sharing that love and pride with the community around you. For me, the most important Pride memory that I ever had was being the Grand Marshal of the 2016 New York City Pride Parade. It was just something else. It was on a different level, seeing so many faces and people waving and smiling at you, the rainbow of colors in the crowd, just everyone cheering and having a great time and celebrating the community. It was just such an amazing experience. I remember specifically marching up in front of Stonewall Inn and taking a picture with a group of fans right in front of Stonewall Inn. It was just such a moment that I'll always remember, a moment filled with pride and love, and I don't know, I just felt like it was such a memorable moment for me. Anyway, I wish you all a happy Pride. I love you so much. Take care.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashlyn Harris, and this is my wife,
Allie Krieger, and we both play for the U.S. Women's National Team and the Orlando Pride, and we just wanted to wish everyone Happy Pride! This is so exciting to celebrate, especially with you. This is our first year and first Pride as a married couple, so it's been really exciting to live our true, authentic life together, and just to celebrate our LGBTQ community this month has been really incredible. So we're wishing all of you a happy Pride.
and we love you and we support you, and Pride will not be canceled. We are here for you, and enjoy this month and live out loud and live with tons of love, especially during this time. Yeah.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, everyone.
Aloha everyone, it is me, Bremen Rock, and I just wanted to stop by and say happy Pride to all of my fellow LGBTQ plus community. If I had one message, my message would be that I hope we never forget where Pride is all started, which is thanks to our Black LGBTQ plus brothers and sisters. Thanks to them, we have the rights that we have today. So we shall celebrate them today, tomorrow, this month, and always, just for the simple fact that they gave us the freedom and the rights that we have today. I just also wanted to say thank you guys so much for always inspiring me, and I hope I do the same for you guys. This month is all for us, and I hope you guys are doing great. I know we are in a tense time in our life right now, and I hope everyone is doing great, and everything will hopefully be back to normal soon, if not better. And I hope you guys are all celebrating Pride in your own way. I know I'm gonna be FaceTiming all of my gay friends, having a little kiki through FaceTime, and maybe get a little drunk. And yeah, I love you guys, and I hope you guys have a happy Pride. I feel like I said that so many times, but aloha.
Happy Pride, everyone. Just because there isn't a parade, it doesn't mean we can't have Pride. That's right. The only problem is without the parade, we're not gonna have Gay Humiliation Day. You know, the next day when everybody's walking home wearing the same clothes they were wearing the day before. Happy Pride.
Hey guys, it's Josie. I just wanted to come on here and hope you guys are staying safe and healthy. I know during these times it can be very easy to feel a sense of hopelessness and helplessness, I being one of those people, but I just want to encourage you, if you are not feeling like your community is in your own home, outreach and find your community on social media. I promise those people are waiting to love and accept you. I think during this time, it is extremely important that we speak up for our Black brothers and sisters and siblings in the LGBTQ community specifically, as we are going through a very important time in history. I think we need to use our privilege as non-Black LGBTQ people to stick up for them, as well as use our voices on social media, go to protests if you can, and go to the polls. I know for many of you it is primaries currently, and as much as we can, speak at the top of our lungs and protest and spread awareness, that awareness needs to be turned into action, and you can most certainly do that at the polls. Please, I encourage you guys to go out there and do that. Yes, know that you're not alone. People are waiting for you. I love you, and we're gonna get through this together. I promise life will return to normal soon, but it is so important that we speak up. All right, bye guys.
The 90s will always be remembered as the advent of the online era. The internet promised life without boundaries or borders. And like most promises, it turned out to be both more and less, better and worse than we could have imagined. Today, for every Animal Crossing, there's a Zoom. For every Grindr, there's another Grindr. But for queer people, there was another side to the 1990s. The internet may have offered us new ways to connect with people around the world, but at the same time, a boom in local LGBTQ spaces and organizations provided us with the opportunity to meet each other in person, face to face, outside of the conventions of an often hostile straight world. Many of these groups were small. Some were short-lived, and most were hyperlocal. Yet they created powerful networks of like-minded queer people, organizing around issues and activities that mattered in their lives and in their communities. While many of these groups might be gone, some still remain, making powerful change in their corner of the queer world, transforming lives and creating uncountable ripple effects. Southerners on New Ground, or SONG, is one of those pioneering local organizations that is still with us today. SONG was born when 6 queer women, 3 white, 3 black, joined forces at a queer political convergence in Durham, North Carolina. As one of those women, Mandy Carter would later recall, our original statement of purpose was building transformative models of organizing in the South that would connect race, class, culture, gender, and sexual orientation. Since that time, SONG created the first ever Southern queer-led traveling organizing school for rural activists. They've trained more than 100 social justice organizations on integrating anti-homophobia and anti-transphobia initiatives into their work, and has hosted and led more than 50 retreats and conferences to bring queer Southern social justice workers together. And they're not slowing down anytime soon. Queer spaces around the country have been dying off in explosive numbers, and the coronavirus pandemic has hastened many of those passings. But if 6 women could come together at the height of the AIDS epidemic, before cell phones, and create a queer, multiracial social justice organization that has thrived for nearly 30 years, I refuse to believe that queer space is doomed. I've been alone a lot this year. I imagine many of you have also. It's given me time to think about the world I want to live in. Productivity is a twisted capitalist way to measure our lives, and anyone who gives you shade for not getting enough done while the world withers around us is a voice you shouldn't listen to, even if it's the one in your head. But as we reclaim our streets and develop our virtual queer islands, I want us to hold SONG in our heads and in our hearts, and remember that we are capable of building anything, even something we've never seen before.
Happy Pride, everyone. Hello. I'm so excited to celebrate Pride Month with you all. I know it's a little bit different this year, but we're still celebrating. We're still sharing our love, our light, our positivity all around the world. I want to thank my friends at Condé Nast and them for creating this virtual platform of celebration. I'm so excited. This past year, we have seen so many incredible breakthroughs for the LGBTQ people in music. The first person that comes to mind is Taylor Swift and her music video, You Need to Calm Down. She included so many incredible LGBTQ artists and created this platform to allow us to shine and to celebrate. And allies are so important to our community. And I really appreciate her for doing that and making so many people feel seen and heard. Also, another huge shout out to Lil Nas X for breaking chart records and courageously expressing his truth. He literally smashed the stereotype of what it means to be a successful rapper. And he's killing it. I'm in awe. RuPaul's Drag Race won an Emmy last year, and I just want to take a second to highlight RuPaul and his legacy and the conversation around drag culture and breaking stereotypes and normalizing drag culture. I was so fortunate to be a guest contestant on RuPaul's Celebrity Drag Race, and it was such an emotional experience and journey for me. I was able to work through so many insecurities for myself, and it just reminded me how amazing that show is to so many people and their journey in finding themselves. You know, we are all on this journey, and we have grown so much as a community, and we still have so much more to grow. You know, depending on where you live and your situation, your culture, we have still so much more to fight and to grow. And I really encourage you all to register to vote. It's super, super important to keep our voices heard. And let's continue the fight, the good fight of being ourselves and being able to celebrate that. I love you all so much. Happy Pride! And I'll be thinking of you, wearing all of my rainbow accessories and feeling proud. And I hope you feel proud too. Love you all. Mwah. See you soon. Bye.
Hi, I'm Zach Posen, and I'm a fashion designer and a proud member of the LGBTQ+ community. I have a really unique story. I grew up in New York City, in Lower Manhattan, to a family that really supported who I was and my exploration and creativity. My father is a painter and an artist. So my story, I know, is very rare, and I was drawn to fashion because it was a community that was made up by creative outsiders that found this incredibly beautiful world to express their emotions. You know, there were many people that paved the way for me to be able to be who I was. It wasn't always the case that fashion designers could be comfortable with representing their identity and sexuality and preferences in the public. By the time I entered into fashion, it was totally the normal, and it was exciting, and it felt like this is the place for my creativity and for who I was. In New York, there was an incredible world in the 90s of the community, and I would go to a night on Wednesday nights called Jackie's 60s with the most incredible performers and artists and drag queens and kind of subculture elements that were really coming there to have fun, to listen to great music, and to celebrate. And I was so young, and I just said, this is my world, this is my community, and I want to make clothing and be able to be embraced and express myself. I also know that there were incredible people that paved the way for this possibility in New York only a short period of time before that. Larry Kramer and the Stonewall riots really made it possible to get where we are today. Fashion is an incredibly beautiful, rich world. It is expressive, and it is made up by an amazing community, and it is filled with members of the LGBTQ+ community.
Hi friends,
I'm Jordan Roth, and I'm so grateful to be celebrating Pride with you. When I was a kid, long before I knew what it really meant that I was gay, I knew that I loved the theater. I knew that everything about me that made me feel so wrong in the world made me feel right in the theater. I knew when I was dazzled by the original La Cage aux Folles as a 7-year-old that Harvey Fierstein and Jerry Herman were imagining a world where I could be right and also fabulous. I knew when I was devastated by the original Angels in America that Tony Kushner and George Wolfe were showing me a world where I could live more life. They and so many others showed me and so many others that feeling of rightness that we thought only possible in the dark cover of a theater could be possible in the light of the world. And that is pride. This year, without the fun, but also the distraction of a parade, we could reconnect to that feeling of pride, that affirmation of pride, the promise of pride for ourselves and for each other. Nurturing that feeling within ourselves and affirming it for those who need our help to know their pride, to know their rightness in the light of the world. Happy Pride, friends. Today and all our days.
Hello, beautiful people. My name is Ian Fields Stewart. I use they, them, she, her pronouns, and I am a proud Black, queer, trans feminine storyteller working at the intersection of theater and activism. My life is all about telling stories. I've loved them since I was a child, and as I've grown, I've seen the opportunity that stories have to change the world. As my idol Janet Mock says, I believe that telling our stories, first to ourselves and then to one another and the world, is a revolutionary act. It is an act that can be met with hostility, exclusion, and violence. It can also lead to love, understanding, transcendence, and community. In these unprecedented times, we have a rare opportunity, an opportunity to tell a different story, a new story, a true story, a story of how this land that we are on today was occupied and colonized, a story of how the people who built this land were stolen from their own place and taken here, unpaid, beaten, and traumatized. And we also can tell a story of how those same people have flourished and grown and blossomed into the most beautiful and vibrant culture that other people seem to like to take from quite a bit. We can also tell the story of the Black trans women, such as Miss Major Griffin Gracie, Janet Mock, Laverne Cox, Marsha P. Johnson, and so many others who lived and live today, who are a part of crafting the culture, the art, the music, the fashion, the food, all of it. So, this Pride Month, I urge you to tell that news story. Learn the history and tell it right.
We live in a time of unprecedented transgender visibility. Trans creators like Janet Mock and Laverne Cox are bringing stories to life on television. Trans writers like Jordy Rosenberg and Them's own Meredith Toulousan are burning up editors' best lists. Trans activists like Gavin Grimm and Elle Hearns are fighting and winning battles for trans rights all around the country. And trans artists like Tourmaline and LJ Roberts are being shown in major museums. As the gay liberation slogan goes, the trans community is, and always has been, everywhere. But now, they're here openly, visibly, demanding the respect and pronouns they deserve. And yet, the work is not done, not even close. At least 26 trans people, mostly working class women of color, were murdered in America last year, and those are just the ones we know about. An uncountable number have been lost to suicide, poverty, AIDS, poor healthcare, ICE detention, and the other 1,001 routine dangers that come with being trans in America in 2020. Our community is like an iceberg. A few of us have climbed so high we are like mountains. Most of us are paddling in a cold ocean trying to keep our heads above water. An unknowable number have sunk beneath the waves. And even though we look solid, if the winds keep shifting, the progress we've made just might melt away forever. Thankfully, we have spent years fighting the exact kinds of attacks we are facing today. In 2002, legal scholar and activist Dean Spade launched the Sylvia Rivera Law Project, a legal advocacy collective by and for low-income trans communities and trans communities of color. In the first year of their existence, SRLP defended the rights of Jean Doe, a 17-year-old trans girl living in a New York City group home, where she was forbidden from wearing skirts or dresses. In fact, the Administration of Children's Services in New York confiscated all of her female clothing in an effort to force her back into male clothes, and back into the closet. When the judge ruled that Doe had the right to dress in clothing appropriate for her gender, SRLP established a legal precedent protecting the rights of all trans youth in foster care. In 2014, the year Time magazine declared as the transgender tipping point, SRLP filed a case called Cruz versus Zucker, fighting a transphobic and deadly regulation that banned Medicaid in New York State from covering transgender healthcare. After 2 years of arguing in the courts, they won. And in 2018, the New York State Department of Health issued new guidelines for the treatment of trans and non-binary people in all its Medicaid plans. If you want to know how we reached our tipping point, it is because people like the advocates at the Sylvia Rivera Law Project have been pushing the boulder of our rights up a Sisyphean mountain for decades, and they're nowhere near done. This past year has tested our strength. Our strength is being tested today, on the streets of every city staging protests against police brutality, for racial justice, and to end the terror of our current administration. But I want you to know that we are here, together, and if we work together, we are unstoppable.
안녕하세요. 저는 퍼스트 오픈리 게이 아이돌 홀랜드입니다. 프라이드 머스를 맞아 여러분들에게 이렇게 인사드립니다. 오랜 시간 동안 우리는 수많은 혐오와 차별 속에서 불합리한 것들을 겪어왔습니다. 이유는 인종과 성별, 그리고 성적 지향성과 같은 문제들이었죠. 저 또한 학교 폭력의 피해자입니다. 제가 게이라는 이유로 수많은 폭력과 차별 속에서 시간을 보냈어야 했습니다. 이것은 저만의 문제가 아닙니다. 수많은 LGBTQ 아이들이 겪고 있는 현실입니다. 저는 젊은 LGBTQ 친구들에게 이야기하고 싶습니다. 여러분들이 느끼는 사랑이라는 감정은 결코 잘못된 것이 아니며 당연한 것이고 소중한 것입니다. 지금도 많은 사람들이 상처받고 다치면서 당연하게 누려야 될 권리를 위해 싸우고 있습니다. 그들을 위해서 목소리를 내고 서포트 해주세요. 스스로를 사랑하고 당당해지세요. 멋진 사람이 되어서 희망과 평화를 이야기해주세요. 저는 더 이상 많은 사람들이 다름으로 상처받는 걸 원치 않습니다. 저는 언제나 사랑을 노래하고 움직일 것입니다. 감사합니다.
Hi everybody, it's Tommy Dorfman and I want to wish you a happy Pride. I think it's imperative that we all remember that Pride began as a protest and should continue to be that. While we have come so far as a community, Especially in America, there is still a long way to go for equality for all. Specifically, trans people in our community and Black trans women and men are under attack now more than ever. It is our job to come together collectively to support them and fight for their rights and safety as you would fight for your own. I hope this is a reminder to you that there's still a lot of work to be done, and while we can celebrate, we need to make sure that we are still out there supporting organizations and helping the most disenfranchised members of our community. Sending you love and light.
Hola, I'm Pedro Julio Serrano, and I'm a human rights activist and president of Puerto Rico Para Todos. In Puerto Rico, we've had a long list of accomplishments when it comes to the rights and protections of LGBTQ people. We are number 20 out of 55 states and territories in the United States that have achieved the protections and rights for the LGBTQ people. We rank very, very high on the list, and we are proud of that history. Nonetheless, in the last 15 months, we have had an epidemic of anti-LGBTQ violence that has cost the lives of 10 of our members. This doesn't happen in a vacuum. This is the result of the rhetoric of fundamentalist political and religious leaders that have demonized and dehumanized LGBTQ people. It is also the product of actions of the legislature and the administration in power right now in Puerto Rico that has tried once and over and over and over again to take away the rights that we have conquered in the last 20 years. We are not going back into the closet. We are not letting them take away our rights. We are going to fight for our dignity and our humanity. The civil code that was just approved and signed by the governor of Puerto Rico strips away some of our rights, but we're not going down without a fight. We are going to go to the courts, and we're going to ask the new legislature that comes into 2021 in power, we're going to ask them to revisit that and put back the rights that have been taken away from us, or they are attempting to take away from us. We are a proud community in Puerto Rico. The LGBTQ community has achieved many, many victories in the last 20, 30 years. And we are going to continue that struggle until we achieve complete and full equality.
Hey everybody, I'm Zachary Quinto. Just taking a moment to send a message of love and support and solidarity and hope to my LGBTQ plus brothers and sisters in the midst of this incredibly unsettling and extraordinary Pride Month. May we work together and stand together and rise up for one another to find our collective voice against the many challenges that stand between us and integration and equality. Both politically and socially, we are living in unfathomably difficult times, and it's only in unity that we will prevail. So may we all remember that as individuals and collectively, and may we be there for one another because we need each other now more than ever. Happy Pride. I hope you're safe. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're strong, because we're going to need all the resources we have in order to continue this fight for our integrity and for ourselves and for each other. Much love. Take care. Be safe.
Pride isn't solely about the moments in which we bask in our achievements. It's also about the journey. For many of us, that journey doesn't come without a cost. It costs some of us our family, friends, career, sense of safety, and for members of the LGBTQIA community who we've lost to homophobia and transphobia, their lives. Yet we stand to gain dignity, respect, hope, purpose, courage, and unconditional love from a community that doesn't require us to shrink ourselves in order to fit into a false social construct of worthiness that requires us to live inauthentically. Pride is the time of the year where we remember those who've come before us. Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, the patrons of the Stonewall Inn, and those who've left behind an indomitable legacy through which we draw our strength. Resistance is in our very DNA. So I challenge you for the rest of Pride Month and every day of the rest of your life to ask yourself one simple question. What is it that I'm willing to fight for? And allow the flame that arises from that truth to be your Northern Star. My name is Ashley Marie Preston. I am a multimedia personality and civil rights activist, but more importantly, I am a proud Black trans woman and member of the LGBTQIA community. Happy Pride Month.
Growing up, most of us likely learned that America was a melting pot, a nation of immigrants made great by our willing embrace of anyone who nurtured the American dream in their hearts. You also probably believed in Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, and George Michael's heterosexuality. On any given day this June, Pride Month, our government holds tens of thousands of asylum seekers and other immigrants in a sprawling network of concentration camps. There are more than 200 ICE detention centers across this country, a truly infuriating number. All year long, I, and hopefully you too, have felt so proud of our queer community. In the half-century since the advent of the queer liberation movement in America, we have fought so many battles and come so far. And we are still fighting and coming further today. But it's often harder to feel proud of ourselves as Americans. How can we feel proud of America when we constantly see racism rear its head in this country? How can we feel proud when we see revolting injustices like the murders of Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, or George Floyd? How can we feel proud when we know that our government reopened the World War II Japanese-American internment camp at Fort Sill, Oklahoma just last year to hold 1,400 isolated and scared children captured along our southern border? How can we feel proud when we know that Joanna Medina Leon, a 25-year-old trans woman from El Salvador, died last year from being held for 7 weeks in a private detention camp in New Mexico? The same camp where she learned she was HIV positive. The same camp where she explained patiently, repeatedly, that she was a trained nurse, that she needed an IV solution, and that she could do it herself, but she just needed the medication. The same camp where she complained of chest pains and was sent to a nearby medical center where she died 4 days later. The only thing any of us can be proud of in this situation is each other. Trans or cis, binary or non-binary, each and every queer person who has stood up and said no. We will not be silent. We will not stand idly by. Around our country, an army of activists has sprung into motion. Organizations like Rainbow Railroad, Asylum Connect, Mariposas Sin Fronteras, and the LGBT Asylum Project, among many others, to do just that. But even more, we can be proud of the thousands of individual lawyers, advocates, judges, journalists, citizen activists, relatives, loved ones, friends, and asylum seekers themselves, who have fought so hard to come to this country and make our lives about the American dream true. Before Out Now Live comes to a close, I want to thank everyone for joining us in honoring and celebrating the legacy of Pride this year. Our platform was created for and by the LGBTQ community, and your voices move and inspire us every single day. We are here because of you. Now, we've spent a lot of time exploring our history, and I want to take this opportunity to reflect on this moment right now. Together, where do we go from here? And going forward, what are our hopes for LGBTQ people around the world? What we're all experiencing right now is an opportunity to build something new for the future. To make incredible strides towards reshaping a culture that is safer and more inclusive for everyone. And it can start here with you. Here, I've asked a few of our friends to share their visions with us.
Hi everyone, it's Alok. You know, I've been reflecting a lot on legacy, and we're here out 51 years after the Stonewall Rebellion. And so often I think that people, even when they tell the story of Stonewall and uplift people like Marsha and Sylvia and Major, neglect that there are people like that in our communities still today. That it wasn't just that Black trans people and that trans people of color started Pride, but let's be honest, it's these communities that have continued Pride and shown what it means to actually be proud, is not just have it 1 month, not just have it at one bar, not just have it on one day, but for it to be a lifestyle, darling, to bring pride everywhere that you go. and a refusal to have to compromise your unapologetic visibility, your critique of a system, your life in order to make other people be more comfortable. And that's what we're seeing today, is a return to Pride's initial legacy and a reminder of what it means to find our heart again. Because I think for so long over these past few years, we've deviated from that path. We've forgotten that the queer and trans movement is fundamentally a racial justice movement. We've forgotten that this movement has always posed a substantial critique of police brutality and criminalization, and we are returning. And what a joy it is to return now and to see the leadership of the Black Lives Matter movement and of Black trans people who have not just historically fought for the conditions that have allowed many of us to enjoy Pride, but continue to fight today. And so I think now what I would really leave people is, how can we do justice to legacy? And what does it look like to animate history so that we don't make the same mistakes of the past, and that we can actually create a movement and a world where all people are able to exist without fear of persecution, and where all people in this country, especially the people who for so long have been ignored, dismissed, and demeaned, have a seat at the table. Thank you.
Happy Pride, everyone. My name is Jason Bolzen. I'm a celebrity stylist and creative director for JSN Studio. It's Pride Month, so let's remember the people who fought for us, marched for us, cried for us. Some of those forgotten names. Let's go research, find those names, and lift them up. Expose those people. They shifted the planet for us. Happy Pride.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wilson Cruz. Happy Pride. You know, for the last 50 years, we've come together as a community to honor and commemorate and continue the work that was started at the Stonewall Inn in 1969. That fateful night when the revelers of that establishment had finally had enough of police brutality, of police raids that they had endured for years. It was an uprising that was started and led by trans women of color, by drag queens. And so our history is full of examples of the struggle for racial equality and for the fight against police brutality. And so this year, as we find ourselves celebrating Pride at this specific moment, when the whole world seems to be paying attention to the problems of racial inequality in our country, we have an opportunity to speak to it. If you are a person of color and a member of the LGBTQ community, I want you to rise up and tell your story. I want you to tell us what your lives have been. And I want the rest of us to listen and then lift those stories up. Make space for the people of color in our community and in your life specifically. So many of us have had to code switch so many times because we live in the intersections of multiple identities. We say and do things in order to make other people comfortable with us. I'd like to see that end. And we can start that by just listening and by telling our stories. So I urge you this Pride Month to take pride in yourself, take pride in your community, and make space for all of us. Happy Pride.
Hey everyone, it's Billy Eichner. Happy Pride. And one of my favorite Pride memories from recent years is from 5 years ago. This is the 5th anniversary this June of when the Supreme Court passed marriage equality. And that happened to be the day of Gay Pride weekend starting in New York. It was Friday, June 26th, 2015, I believe. And it was already going to be a big, fun weekend, and then it happened on that day. And then me and my friends went out that night to celebrate, which we would have done anyway, but we had a real reason to, and you could just feel the spirit in the air of what a momentous occasion it was and how much progress had been made. And that was only 5 years ago. And I remember that night also the White House, which was occupied by the Obamas at that time, was lit up in gay pride colors. And when I first saw that image on social media, I thought it was just something someone photoshopped to be symbolic of the moment. And when I realized that it was real, I was in shock. And I was so moved by that. And it is difficult to think about that and see where we are right now with our current administration, but I also think it's important to remember that that wasn't that long ago and that we can get back to that. And so for Pride this year, I'm thinking about that, and I'm also thinking about, in order to accomplish that, we need to be focused on November, Election Day, because that is our chance. Not only to defeat Trump, which we have to do, but we have a real opportunity to flip the Senate and to elect progressive candidates up and down the ballot all over America. Candidates who are fighting for LGBTQ equality, as well as racial justice, racial equality. So let's focus, let's get involved in the election, and let's do what we know needs to be done, because we cannot stay in this place any longer. We need to get back to a place where we have compassionate adults leading us, and a place where the White House can once again be lit up in gay pride colors. Happy Pride.
Hi, hello, hi, how are you? Hi, I am Julio Torres, and I am very, very happy to be observing Pride with them and you, dear viewer, whomever you might be. So this year, obviously, Pride is going to look a little bit different. We're not going to have any raves and we're not going to have any parades. So how about we take that energy and we redirect it into activism and learning a little bit about our history? Because sure, now we see banks putting up rainbow flags and airlines are tweeting about how cool it is to be gay and politicians are mentioning us in their speeches. But that was the result of years and years and years of activism and years and years and years of chipping away at the status quo, of efforts led by Black, Latinx, and trans activists who fought for the very, very, very rights we have today. So let's think about that. Let's be thoughtful. Have a wonderful Pride. Unless there are any questions, I think I'm done here. Okay, bye. Have a wonderful time. And cut. Bye.
Hi, Bob the Drag Queen from HBO's We're Here. I want to quickly say Happy Pride. I want to quickly say Black Lives Matter. I want to quickly say thank you so much to them for having me be a part of this experience today. I'm just glad that I get the chance to express myself through my art, through my wigs, through my jokes, through my comedy, through my makeup, through my wardrobe. And I've been actually reflecting a lot on what it means to express myself in a time like this. For a moment, I was feeling pretty guilty about it. I was beating myself up about wanting to continue my art in the midst of the turmoil that our nation is going through right now. But then I remember that I turn my TV on and I see so many stories of like Black tragedy a lot, but it's also, we have to remember to spread some Black joy and some Black success stories as well, which is why I've decided to get back on my soapbox and, you know, tell my jokes and wear my outfits and do all that stuff. So I want to thank you all for tuning into this and give yourselves, remember to give yourself some grace and some dignity this year. I know 2020 is a wild one. Like 2020 was a crazy, crazy year, but I do not believe it is more than we can conquer as a people. So remember, stay strong, Black Lives Matter, and vote, vote, vote.
This brings us to the end of Out Now Live. But before signing off, I want to give a very special thank you again to our presenting sponsor, Ralph Lauren. Be sure to check out the link in our YouTube description for more on their very, very special gender-neutral capsule, benefiting the Stonewall Community Foundation. And of course, thank you to everyone who has joined us here tonight and donated to the Ali Forney Center. Take care of one another and keep doing your part to create a better world for all of us. Happy Pride, everyone.